Witte motor. Melk is goed voor elk. Melk moet. Wie is niet opgegroeid met die slogans? Melk zit immers vol met calcium en dat is onontbeerlijk voor een goede gezondheid. In haar boek Melk de Witte sloper belicht de Canadese voedingsdeskundige Alissa Hamilton de andere kant van melk. In Japan bijvoorbeeld, waar helemaal geen melk wordt gedronken, is een onderzoek gedaan naar de negatieve effecten van melk. Het zou bijvoorbeeld darmkanker veroorzaken. Met andere woorden, kunnen we nog wel melk drinken? Are we still allowed to drink milk?
I'm not telling anybody to stop drinking milk. My very fundamental message is milk is not an essential part of a healthy diet, which is what we've been led to believe over the years. So nobody needs it. The definition of an essential nutrient is a dietary substance that is required for healthy body functioning. And there are plenty of bodies that thrive and function very well without milk. So it's not really that controversial.
What was the trigger to write this book?
So my best friend growing up was visiting from Amsterdam. Actually, I'm going to get to see her.
Maxine.
Maxine, yeah. I saw her and her two little boys and her mom yesterday. So she was visiting me in Toronto, and she was with her then 2-year-old son, Oscar. And she said, "I haven't given Oscar cow's milk." She said milk, not cow's milk. And and he's 2. What do I do? Feeling like maybe she was a bad parent because she hadn't given him milk, and that maybe he was, his bones were gonna break. But the interesting thing that night at dinner, he was loving broccoli, and broccoli is super high in calcium, which I don't think a lot of people know. So I was really struck by her question, because neither of us grew up in households where we drank milk by the glass, and yet here she was now as a parent, obviously feeling like she was doing something wrong not giving her little boy milk. And so that really sparked the book, got the book rolling, because I thought I wanted to figure out, does Oscar need milk to be healthy? Do any of us need milk to be healthy? And that led to 2 years of investigating that question.
What is your background?
I have a PhD in environmental studies and a JD, I'm not sure if that's the same here, Juris Doctorate, so a lawyer. I'm trained as a lawyer, so I called to the bar in Ontario. So that, and I've been questioned, like, what does an environmental studies major or PhD know about nutrition? And what I know is how to research and how to find the studies and information that we haven't been being told so much about. Exactly. And bring that to people's attention, and leave it to you, the people, to decide what you want to do with the information.
What are the most common myths about milk?
Well, I think one of the big myths is that milk is the most bioavailable source of calcium, and that actually is not true. Broccoli, bok choy, kale all have higher calcium absorption rates than milk. And you asked where I base where am I getting the information? Well, actually that came from a National Dairy Council publication. I got that information. So even the National Dairy Council recognizes that fact.
I can imagine that most milk producers aren't so happy with your book.
What I'm getting the most hostility. People online can be pretty nasty, but it's really more from people on the street who are saying they can't believe that milk is not. I think that they don't like the message that milk is not essential, and I get reactions like, "How am I going to dip my Oreos into a can of sardines?" or or "How am I going to get you'd have to have 10 tablespoons of dried ground basil to meet the calcium recommendations." Well, answering that, I'm not telling anybody to get all. The whole point is that we should be getting our calcium from a variety of foods, not one food. Why do we want to fixate on one thing? So I'm not telling anybody to eat 10 tablespoons of dried ground basil, for one. For two, going back to the calcium recommendations, we don't need 10 tablespoons of we don't need all that calcium the studies are showing. So and then in terms of answering the person who doesn't want to dip their Oreo into a can of sardines, heavens, I wouldn't deny anybody their glass of milk with their cookies if that's what they enjoy. I'm not saying that. My fundamental point is that milk is not essential, and that the most sensible thing to do at this point is that we should be looking at it as an example of a food you can have rather than one that's required. And so I'm not telling anybody to eliminate dairy from their diets. But if after reading the book you have some concerns about the studies that I cite, or if you're lactose intolerant, allergic, sensitive, there are tons of recipes to show how easy it is to get all of the nutrients you need, all of the nutrients that are in dairy without dairy.
But what is the difference then between yogurt and milk?
Actually, there is a big difference, but there isn't a difference in terms of my message, which is that nobody needs any of it. But I had yogurt for breakfast. It's not like I'm anti all. I'm not out to demonize dairy products. Yeah. So there is a difference, actually. Going back to that 2014 Swedish study about finding the correlation between women who were the heaviest milk drinkers and increased risk for bone fractures. They suspect, the researchers who performed that study suspect that the reason that they may be seeing this correlation is because milk specifically is very high in lactose. And so lactose breaks down during digestion into a highly inflammatory sugar called degalactose. Anyone working with lab animals knows that if you want to age your rats, you inject them with a shot of degalactose because it advances aging and leads to oxidative stress. So they suspect that because they didn't see the same results with the cohort who were heavy, who ate yogurt or cheese. Okay. It was only the ones that were consuming the most milk. So yogurt has lower levels of lactose, and so they think that may be why they're seeing that with the milk and not yogurt consumption.
Okay. So how did it end up with Oscar?
So Oscar's doing great.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's not drinking milk
at all.
No, and she now has Tobias. She was Maxine was pregnant with Tobias and had Oscar with her when she was visiting, and neither of them drink milk. They eat yogurt and they have some cheese or whatever, but they don't drink milk by the glass.